for more on the importance of education and school choice, I want to bring in our next guest, Idaho Congressman Russ Fulcher. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us. So I feel like this issue of education is kind of symbolic of kind of the shift of the Democratic Party in general, kind of moving more to the left. Before we get to that, though, I just want to get your take on the state of the education system here in America.
Well, part of the problem is that our colleagues across the aisle, the Democrats, want to continue to narrow choices as opposed to expanding them. That's simply the wrong approach. If we want to improve our education system, we have to improve the options and the competition within that system, just like everything else. The market will help determine the success of a certain program, and education is no different.
And when it comes to the education system, too, I ask because you're on the House Committee of Education and Labor. This is becoming kind of a big issue kind of for Democrats, and it's becoming a very appealing type of issue for especially younger voters. We see the Democratic presidential candidates talking about doing away with student loan debt. We see them kind of offering free college type of solutions in order to kind of ramp up the enthusiasm behind their campaigns. What is the conservative or the Republican response to those types of agenda?
Well, first of all, education is fundamental to our quality of life, to our culture, and it would sound great just to eliminate all that debt and make everything free. But the bottom line is someone pays. And it's a classic Democrat trick, right? They want to offer something free, and oftentimes you get some short-term votes. Next thing you know, the debt continues to climb. The answer is not to try to just give things away. The answer is to allow the market to do these things, allow choice to proliferate, allow parents to be involved more with their kids' education. That's the answer. And this is a typical Democrat trick, just to try to get some short-term votes and try to sell something on the basis that it's somehow free.
And we see a lot of that going on right now, actually. We see them, Democratic candidates, kind of saying, okay, well, we want to go to a more government type of system for health care. We want to see it in regard to education. And we even see it with things like the Green New Deal, which sounds like an environmental policy right off the top. But then you kind of read the fact sheet, and it's much more expansive than that. It gets into jobs. It gets into rebuilding infrastructure. It gets into a lot of different things. Are these type of policies just essentially a Trojan horse for more government in our everyday lives?
I think they are. And if you peel that back one more step, it turns into control. And fundamentally, there's a difference in the platforms of the Republicans and the Democrats. The Republicans think that, generally speaking, the answer is for the individual to have more control, for the private sector to be in charge. The Democrats take a fundamentally different approach, that government needs to be the answer, the government solutions, government regulations, government control, and all these things. And that's where the Green New Deal and the education argument, that's where it all runs into conflict. Medicare, health care, the same thing. If you want to ruin it, put the government in charge of it. If you want it to succeed, allow the market and individuals to be in charge.
And we see the younger generations kind of more susceptible to that type of ideology. I mean, younger people are more willing to accept socialism or at least more government control over programs. And we see that kind of resonating throughout the younger generation specifically. And a lot of people say that that is because of our education system. We say that they're no longer taught proper history in schools, that maybe there's an inherent bias among teachers. What do you think the solution to that is? Should more conservatives be getting into the teaching profession? Does there need to be more type of regulations regarding what goes into those type of programs? What is the solution as far as that goes?
I think to some extent we've been a victim of our own success. We've got an entire generation or a generation and a half now that's never really lived through a significantly bad downturn where you've had to make real hard decisions on a lot of things in life. And we've been so successful that there's this thinking process that, maybe the government should be in charge. Maybe the government should be the provider here. When in reality, the government is not a provider. The government is a consumer. And so I hate to say that, but if you look back in our history, there's been these corrections from time to time, and it's made people stop and think and come to the realization that, wait a minute here, the answer is not the government. And we've got a generation and a half who's never really experienced a solid downturn. And I hope that the education system and a choice mechanism and personal involvement will help change that, and that we can we can drive home the point that the real answer is not with government control.
Yeah, I mean, they say the pendulum swings to the other side, and it seems like right now the counter to President Trump is very much so a very far left, socialistic type of policies that are being proposed. And young people right now, I mean, it's hard not to say yes to free things, but it's a matter of whether or not those policies can actually get done. But Representative Russ Fulcher, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you.